Now I can stop fumbling around and I'm going to have to get to it. Perfect timing. The fuck was that? All right, I don't even know if the YouTube thing's working right now. That's fine if it's not. We're just gonna get started. So here's the deal, guys. The reason why we called together training for today is because if you look at last month, just kind of give you guys a status update and understanding of where we're at. If you look at last month, then we hit I think 90. So there's whenever we give goals, there's a goal that we give out that we are going for that will help us hit our objective for the end of the year. And then there's a goal that the company gives us that's usually less than that goal, always less than that goal. Usually it's about 130% of the company goal is what we're going for. So not even looking at our company goal, just looking at or not even looking at our goal, just looking at our company goal, we hit, and this is, putting in every resale and callback that you can imagine, we hit 98% of it in Central, 116% of it in West, and we hit just over 130% in North. It was the first month where North and West were not over 200 leads. Each office was not over 200 issued leads. It was the first month all year, I think. Maybe we had one other month, January, like this, where Central did not hit over 500 issued. And everything tracked, it tracked the same way. It was like typically West and North are a certain percentage of Central. They still stay the same percentage. And what you saw was if you dig into why, I can't tell you the exact reason why, but what I can tell you is that you'd see that the top performers were down an average of 10 leads per person for the month, roughly 10, I think it was like 9.6. And the lowest performers seem to, this is saying, I'm not going to say it. This is a saying that's used in some different countries. It's kind of funny, I think, that would basically say they don't care, or they can't be bothered. You know what I'm saying? But they say something different. It's kind of funny. I kind of want to say it, but this isn't on YouTube thing, so I don't really want to say it. But it was said to me the other day, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck did you say? I just said the word to this. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to go there. We'll do it later. But that's what I mean by that is that the lower performers. I mean, I guess if you're not making commission, then who the hell cares? Who the hell cares by how much you're not making commission? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. It's unfortunate, but that's what happened. Is we see the top performers just do a little bit less, and then we see the performers, the people that are struggling at the bottom of the list perform even less than they typically do. So you start to think of, okay, well, why? I mean, you can't go, okay, you could think, well, it's the economy. It's got to be the economy. If it was the economy, then it would hit different places in different ways. So, for example, the economy back in spring, in March, you could tell that the economy affected traditional marketing definitely. We had to go out and find different customers than traditional marketing was going for. So, for example, if we were in a neighborhood where people were like house broke, like 800,000 neighborhood, we weren't selling a damn thing. But if we're in a neighborhood that was middle income, where people were working factory jobs, then we did. If we went based on the economy, like the traditional economy, then if we like projected what we want to do on that, we'd be screwed every month. I mean, the economy sucks. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird economy. It's a fake economy. You know what I'm saying? And so we'd be screwed. So we can't base it off that, because we would have done almost no business this year. You know what I'm saying? We'd be shutting our doors if we based it on the American economy. That's not what you want to base things off. Is it based on the customers that we're talking to? Well, nothing happened that made people more apprehensive. You could say, well, COVID made a resurgence and this and that. Okay, fair. Nobody cares. Nobody says anything about that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know it was happening. Who gives a shit? I mean, it just doesn't. It barely exists anymore in people's minds. So it definitely wasn't that. So you start to look at, well, okay, well, what is it, guys? And it's going to be a couple different things. The first thing it's going to be is it's going to be an attitude and environment that we're creating, and that's going to be induced by people's ability to be able to control what they're doing. And what I mean by that is that once we start to veer off from the system, and it's not controlled by team leads, and it's not controlled by managers and myself. Once that control's gone, once we stop controlling that, we stop working on the core values that we have as a company, then we start to lose production. We start to lose faith in what we're doing, and it ends up making our numbers not so great. And you can see this, by the way, in individuals, right? So if you've been here for any length of time, then you've seen somebody that has done really, really well. You know that they're doing great. You know that they're one of the best in the department, and they start to struggle. And when they struggle, though, it's not like a little bit. It's like an extreme struggle. You're like, what the hell's going on with this person? You know what I'm saying? It's not. It seems almost random. And the person they didn't forget how to do the job. They know how to do the job, but for whatever reason, they're convincing themselves otherwise. And that could be that they feel slighted in some sort of way, or they feel like they can't deal with customers. You'll hear people like that oftentimes say that they're overwhelmed, or that's not a good word for it, that they're burnt out, I'm just burnt out. A lot of times people will take that route. And it could be true. Oftentimes they're burnt out by lack of performance. If you're used to going out there and getting, 2, 3, 4 leads a day, and all of a sudden that's a 1 or 2 lead a day thing, then it's going to affect you, obviously. You know what I'm saying? So misassessed problems will also cause issues like that too. So my point is this, is that beneficially, guys, if you don't have any problems in your department, or you don't have any problems in your team, then there's nothing to fix, there's nothing to work on. And I'll tell you this, it's like, how many of you guys are in relationships? I'm writing this down. I'm taking a list. I'm looking. So I'm just kidding. No, man, that's wow. Like more than half the department's single. That's crazy. I gotta take you guys out or something like that. We gotta go. My wedding ring's off right now, so I'm just kidding. It's uncomfortable. I'll put it back on. Now I gotta put it back on. Yeah, probably. I wouldn't be surprised. Looking for information for the lawyers. The thing is that if you're in a relationship, or if who's been in a serious relationship? Okay, most people have been in a serious relationship. All right. In a serious relationship, I don't know about you guys, but oftentimes what'll happen is, everybody gets in fights, everybody has problems and stuff like that, right? Some more than others. But if it's a good relationship, any good relationship that I've been in, if I get into some sort of argument or confrontation over something that matters, over something that's important, then once if it works out, if we work on it and fix things, then it seems like things are better. Not just like good, not just what they were before, but something has been solved into the future. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just like, okay, things are as good as they were before. Things are better. We made improvements to the relationship, right? So for example, if there's something that really, really bugs me, right, that my spouse is doing, maybe at this stage in a relationship with his kids and stuff like that, maybe it's a parenting style, right? Like I'm a little bit tougher on my kids. I have a little bit of a different expectation than my wife does. So if that's the case, if I have a different expectation than my wife, anytime that we go, I'll give you an example. Last night I go into my daughter's room and we're saying goodnight, and I see 3 cups of water in her room. Okay, it's just cups of water. I get it. It's not like it's like a terrible thing or whatever. But I'm like, hey, what makes you? I don't let them eat or drink anything in their rooms, right? So it's not when I'm home. Okay. So obviously her mother let her do it. And then why do you think that's okay? Well, it's just water. Okay. Well, her obviously that's a message coming from her mother too. To me, you don't leave half the house's cups in your goddamn room. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter what's in them. You know what I'm saying? You're not collecting the fucking things, right? So that's an example. So if I go into that conversation and I have a productive conversation and something is solved, then I'm not just solving that problem, right? Forever or for a long time, I'm solving an issue that was very frustrating, that was irritating when it happened. And so I'm avoiding that problem coming up again, and I'm fixing it permanent. Does that make sense? Or at least semi-permanent. Not that it will never come up again, but it won't come up. It's not as likely that it comes up. So when you go into this job and you have a month like last month and you look at it and you go, okay, well, there's a number of different problems. So for example, I think from a management perspective, we definitely failed at bringing new people in and then training right off the bat, making sure that they saw the success we wanted them to see right off the bat. to feel good and be successful at the job. Cole, do you have that information, by the way, too? What's that? You texted it to me? Okay. I'm going to update this sheet for us while we're doing this so we can go through it. You texted it to me. I did not get it. So each of your managers for your offices have been given an Excel form, and basically, we're tracking each day how many leads we have running, how many leads we had run, and so what we need. And so, for example, in Central, we need 21.56 per day. Okay, we had 23 run yesterday, so that's good. Okay, that will help us a lot with our total. So month to date, that means we've issued 27. And then today we're issuing 26 today. Yeah, no, fuck you. Up in North, we have to issue 7.43 per day. We issued 2 on Sunday. Sunday is obviously still part of the month. Today we're issuing 5. Yesterday we issued 5. So we're a little bit behind where we need to be at, but nothing that we can't make up. So we've issued a total of 7. Today we're issuing 5. Now that 5 is not a foregone conclusion. Yesterday we had 2 cancels or 3 cancels, that means. So you got to keep that in mind. Up in West on Sunday we issued 0. Yesterday we did issue 8, which is good because the average that we need per day is 7.33. And today we are issuing 6, so it's a little bit behind, but by about 1 lead. So we should be good. We just got to make up for that today. But if we hit our goal, okay, which is 225 in North and West and 650, okay, for this, 650 in Central, which we should be well on pace to do, then we'll go and do paintball on the 11th of November. Okay, on the 11th of November. There's a place that we typically go to. We'll probably go there. Maybe we'll try somewhere new. I don't know. All I know is that one of the guys that worked here, he's no longer here. He accidentally stole the tank and a couple other things from the place for me. He didn't mean to, but he shows up at my house. I'm like, hey, can you grab my gun? Because I had left a little bit early because we were having a party at my house afterwards. And he shows up with all their shit. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's not good. The gun was mine. I mean, it's the expensive one. I mean, if it was, that would be fucked up. If he stole that, I would have thought more about bringing it back rather. But anyways, either way. So whenever we need to correct, whenever we have a problem, we need to correct. I think focusing on permanent solutions to a problem that can be extremely temporary is very important. Now, I don't know about you guys, but and I ask you guys again to raise your hand if you've been in a serious relationship before. Okay, if you're not at this stage in your life, then get working on that. If you need some help, let me know. So I'm just kidding. You don't need to be if you don't want to be. Trust me. But if you have been, then you know what this is like. You want to fix problems permanently. Now, for me, I don't know. There's different styles that people take in relationships. For me, I'm someone that when a problem comes up, I just want to deal with it and get it the fuck out of the way. I don't want to deal with that for a long time. I don't want to have it weighing on my mind. I just want to deal with it and get it out of the way. You know, I would rather suffer through the worst, most difficult conversation ever than sit there and wait to resolve something, right? Who's like that? Who would rather just get through it, right? Okay, who would rather just sit there and hang out and not worry about it? Okay, most people. So there's definitely some people that say that they are. So I'll give you another example, right? My wife, she will not talk to me if there's a problem. Like it's just like silent treatment, like 100%. For me, I can't do that. I won't shut the fuck up if there's a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like no, I'm not doing until we solve this, and we're gonna keep at it, right? And so everybody has a different style. With this, if we approach these problems that we see in our department aggressively and we go after them, now we're not going to see them come up for a long time. It's not going to be something that, as long as we keep each other accountable, that's going to come up for a long time. Most of the problems that we would have in a situation like this, guys, they're not script problems. So what we're actually going to look at first is we're going to look at the steps to success that are in your training manual. Okay, you don't have to have them in front of you. This is very easy. Make sure that you have something available to take notes. Okay, because you might want to take notes on some of this stuff. We're going to talk about what some of this stuff means because we go through it each week in the first week of training, then we never touch it again. It's never talked about again. And even in the first week of training, a lot of it's blown past. Okay, because it takes time and it doesn't make sense to spend time on some of these things. Okay, so first, the first step to success is have a great attitude, regardless of your day's results. Focus on accountability and what you can affect. Work towards goals and remember your accomplishments. So let's talk about these things for a second. When I first started, guys, this was called the 3 A's, which is just really cliche and weird to me. Attitude, accomplishment, accountability were the 3 A's. So we changed it a little bit to be less childish. Have a great attitude regardless of your day's results. Okay, I have, and I'm not. Some of the guys that are remote guys are not on here right now. But this is an issue with some of the guys that work the remote positions because what happens is they don't have a team at the end of the day. So if you picture, there's always that person in the van that wants to get back in the van and talk about how the reason why they didn't do well is because there was 3 people that were mean to them, during the day. And it's just like, man, shut the fuck up. Like it's an irrelevant problem. You know what I'm saying? And I know what you want to say. I know what I want to say in a situation like that. And I can tell you right now, if you're someone that gets in the van, I'm just preemptively telling you this so that I'm not an asshole later on. If you're someone that gets in the van and you do that and you're like, oh, well, just not Holmes. Everyone thinks you're a dickhead. Everyone does. You know what I'm saying? And no one might say anything. Sometimes people will, but everyone thinks you're being a dickhead. Everybody does. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you right now, you get back in the van and it's okay. Well, what happened today? Is there anything I can help you with? Well, a lot of people weren't home, a lot of new windows, a lot of renters. Everyone is thinking, oh my God, shut the fuck. Like, come on, dude. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's working the same neighborhoods. I had Kenny in a neighborhood the other day, which I knew cutting the map because I could see it, from ground force, that over half the neighborhood was rentals. It was a big neighborhood. He very easily could have made the excuse of, oh, rentals. All I did was I told him, I said, look, some of them are going to be rentals. You'll find out. I'd rather you check because who knows? Last time it was done was 2 years ago. Some of them could have sold and people could be living in them now. And at the end of the day, he got 3 leads, didn't complain about the rentals one time. I asked him, he said, yeah, a lot of them were rentals, but it was fine. You know what I'm saying? And it was what it was. It's only a problem if you make it a problem because it's never going to be 100% of people that you talk to that are like that. Another person said to me the other day, oh, well, people are just being assholes. They just don't want to buy anything. They don't want to. And I said, okay, can you pull up Zillow or like Trulia or any real estate website? I want to see the ads for these neighborhoods that you've knocked, like when they're selling the houses. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I need to see where they're pitching the houses to just assholes. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're not an asshole, you can't move here, that kind of thing. Like you can't have that on an application, obviously. It's a fucking ridiculous statement to make. You know what I'm saying? Like as though they're just pitching those houses to assholes. Well, there's specific realtors that only deal with assholes. You know what I'm saying? It's not a real thing. You know what I'm saying? So focusing on having a great attitude, regardless of your day's results. Now, here's the deal: is you can't cross having a great attitude with not giving a shit. Like because I could get back in the van and just be like, yeah, no, I mean, it was okay. I had some good conversations and I just don't care. And that's the problem, right? So what is the correct response? I mean, it's tough because you don't want to tell people emotionally how to feel in the job. I mean, people are going to let their emotions play out. I do think that there's a certain set of emotions that lead to success and a certain set that leads to failure. There's a set that leads to failure and you want to avoid it like the plague. The set that leads to success, though, is the attitude of, even if I have a bad day, I'm going to genuinely learn from it, and I'm going to learn from everybody else, and I'm going to carry that on to the next day. Okay. So what should you expect if a manager walks with you? What you should expect is 2 things, and different managers will do differently. So this might be slightly different, but you should expect that during the day, your manager should ask you a good amount of questions, a fair amount of questions, anyways. There should be expected change throughout the day. So if I'm walking with somebody, then within that first couple hours, I'm going to give them something significant to change. What's up? I can. Yeah, I can in like 5 minutes. Yeah. We gotta wait for that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's some purple on the table right there.
Yeah, that's fine. People that are dogs, making sure they can stuff.
Did everybody that is can you guys see if your name's on any of that stuff?
Yeah. There are.
There was a thing to fill out a while ago, but it was before some of you guys were. Some people didn't fill it out, so. Yeah, I know that's funny. Yeah. If there's a size that fits somebody else. Yeah. All right, so we'll get done this part and then we'll go through and then we'll go do that. Fucking Don's called me to tell me the same thing. Hey Don. I can in 5 minutes. We're in the middle of training. It's taped on YouTube as well, so it's time sensitive. All right, thank you. I'm hoping that she just goes, no, like who wants to take a picture? Does anybody really care about that? Okay, me neither. I'm not going to go down as a matter of fact. I'm going to sneak out. So I'll give you guys the option to go down in 5 minutes. And I'd actually request that like at least a couple of you guys do. I'll say manager should, team lead should, that's just bite the bullet and go do it. You know? All right. So you can't tell somebody exactly how to feel in a situation where they had a bad day or whatever. What I can tell you is what will make you more successful, but it's got to be genuine. The attitude of going into here, first of all, how do you start the day? Okay. You have to believe that you're going to set leads. Now, why would you not believe you're going to set leads, right? The only reason why I would not believe I'm going to set leads is either A, I haven't done it before. So either I'm newer or I haven't seen the level of success before, or B, I found myself in a place where I'm having a tough time. I'm in like a negative mindset, a negative place, right? Those are the two ways that I might not see the same level of success, or I might go into the day not knowing, hey, I'm definitely going to write leads. Okay. And I can tell you, I can give you an example of a day where that happened to me. I was with Mike Bowden up in West, and it was his first day or second day on the road, and I was with a couple other guys as well. And I was in my car alone. I was meeting them out there. We were going to this neighborhood, and I thought right before I parked my car, I said, I'm not writing any fucking leads. Like, I'm just not in a good mood for this. I'm not in a good place. So I actually thought after 14 years in the job, I'm thinking that, there's no way. I know I'm going to have a tough day today. I'm just going to struggle through it. And at least maybe I could show them a couple good pitches. And that was in my head, right? And then I started thinking like, first of all, you're training a guy who's meant to manage a department up here. If that's going to be your attitude, then that sucks. Like that's going to be a big problem. And second, why? You've been doing this for 14 years. Why you haven't had a 0 lead day in I don't know how long, 10 of them. Like, what are you thinking? You know what I'm saying? Of course you're gonna write leads today. It's a foregone. The first couple of houses were a struggle, but then after that, things were easy. The first conversation came up where I broke through past the window problems, and at that point I knew I'm gonna write leads. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a matter of I end up setting a lead and that. No, once I got through that conversation, I was like, okay, I'm past the hard part. This should be fine. And then we set 3 or 4 leads that day. What you got to think of, guys, when you're out there on the road, it's getting past that difficult part. If you have a bad attitude towards things, if you're not in a good place mentally, then what's going to happen is you're effectively stopping yourself in the introduction. The customer can read it on your face and it's going to give you a problem. Okay. So the attitude going into the day has to be, there's something that I can do. Even if I've had a tough time in the past, there's something that I can do to go out there and get leads today. I'm going to get 2 leads today. And then it helps to get your first lead early. It's not necessary, but it helps to get your first lead early, obviously. Coming out of the day, if you've had a bad day, your attitude should be, obviously, there's something I can do to fix this. And that's the most important thing. If you don't believe there's anything that you can do to fix it, then you might as well quit the job. There's something I can do to fix this. People around me are seeing success, so I know that I can. There's just a missing piece of information that I got to figure out. And that piece of information doesn't take 24 hours to figure out, or 2 days to figure out, or an hour to figure out. It's guaranteed. It's a little thing, and we'll go through probably what it is today. So that's the attitude you want to have coming out of the day. Focus on accountability. What can you do to get better? What can you do to fix what you're doing out there? And this is so important because when you think about it, guys, you're fucked. If if you can't do anything, right, to fix what you're doing, then you're kind of fucked. Like that sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really a problem. You know, if I'm a football player, right? Let's say I'm a quarterback and I come back from an injury and I'm doing everything I can and I'm still, throwing 40 yards. I can't throw past 40 yards. There's nothing I can do. Then I'm screwed. My career is over. There's nothing I can do. If there's truly nothing I can do, then that's it. That's it for me. I can't like just, adjust, or whatever. Like it's not, if I'm a running back, right? And if I'm what's his name, Nick Chubb, and I come back from that injury that he had, right? And I just can't spring. Then that's a problem that's not going to be solved. Hold on one second. I get another call from. All right, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, we're finishing up a part of training. We're going on right now. All right, thank you. All right, photo. Let's go. Let's just get it done. All right, guys, 5 minute break. Sorry about that. I was there. All right. Fucking, sorry, I get irritated with stuff like that. I'm really not a fan. And I need to finish up something else too for payroll. So, all right. So while I'm pulling this up and whatnot, we'll continue what we're doing. Good time. Nothing but. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get through this as quick as I can. Obviously, with this, some festivities have gotten in the way of. So you guys know too that they're shooting a commercial, or whatever. So they had to take, they took us downstairs to do this. I don't know, whatever. That like the same thing they did last year, or whatever. They blew up these things. Watch out, you guys probably had that puddle over too. No. Probably on our social media. That won't be on TV. Probably, maybe. I'll let you know if it is. All right, so it might be actually because CBS probably potentially would do it. We'll put it up there. We'll see. So accountability we've gone through. Goals and accomplishments. Here's the thing: is that when it comes to goals, guys, it's not like goals is such a tough thing for this reason. It's like everybody has goals. I mean, if you're someone that does not have goals at all, then I mean you're existing. I mean, let's put it this way: my 12-year-old has goals. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of them, right? My 8-year-old has goals. If you're someone that genuinely does not have goals in life, then this is definitely not the job for you. And there's people out there like that, man. There's people out there that just don't give a shit at all. I almost said my friend from outside the country, they say a saying that's pretty funny. So, but I'll save that for later. So, but they just don't care. And every time I almost say it, I do say it now too. It's funny, but it's a good saying. We've never heard it in America. I've never heard it before. But I think it's genius. Yeah, it's good. I'll let it out eventually, but it's worth it. It's worth it. You'll start using it, definitely. And then people will look at you funny for sure. But if you don't have goals, then it's really, really difficult to like an aimless life is not a successful, right? And that could be anything, by the way, too. It doesn't matter what it is. Not everybody's goals to make them, and that's why I try to get managers to understand, because I think that a lot of people assume that whatever goals they have, that's just what other people want. Not everybody wants to make or cares about making a ton of money or whatever. Like I said, there's a balance here. And that balance has to be, is it a good environment to work in? The things that we can't control as much, customers' attitudes, weather, things like that. Does the good outweigh the bad? So a day like today, for example, it's beautiful and it's fantastic. You know what I'm saying? 3/4 of the year are like this, where it's amazing, and then you got actually more than that. Then you have this probably mid-December to February 1st-ish that are just like rough when it comes to weather. They're really, really cold. And before that and after, it's a little bit cold too, more tolerable, but it's like things like that does the other 11 months outweigh it. And it's only gonna outweigh it if the other two tiers connect. And then money. Can people take care of themselves, obviously, or can they really succeed at their goals and objectives? Those 3 pillars are very important. Where do your goals fit in? And then what are you doing to get there? So our department obviously has goals each month that we have to obtain, right? So we have to obtain them. Last month was the first month where we really didn't hit them. And honestly, if you look at every office, if you take out resales, we were under 130% for each office. So each office has improvements to make too. It's not just one office. The goals, we should never be under 200 issued leads for West or North, never. And we should never be under 600 at this point for Central. It's the way it is. You know what I'm saying? So when we hit 462, 162 or whatever it was, and 191, it's not good. And that's with resales and things like that. So what do? We have to adjust. If we didn't have goals or objectives, guys, if we were just walking around aimlessly, with no goals, no objectives, or if our objectives were effectively nothing, meaning that they were so low that it just didn't matter. Let's say that our goals were 200 issued leads in Central and 100 in North and West. then I mean, we're gonna hit that no matter. We can have 5 people and hit that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything to stimulate success. So if your goal out there is, well, hey, I just need to make money to live, and I really just need to make 20 bucks an hour to live. That's too easy. It's too easy. The objective's too easy. Trust me when I say if that's fine for you, great. Go for 30 an hour, because that extra 10 bucks an hour, if you can save that and bank that, you're not going to be unhappy in a couple of years when it does become important, if it's not important now. You know what I'm saying? When you have a child, or you have something else that you're looking forward to, purchasing a home, something like that, you're not going to be upset to have that money set aside. I can guarantee you that. Or even something fun that you really want to do that you're not able to do because of that. All right. So, remember your accomplishments. And what that means, guys, is simply you've done more difficult things. You've done more difficult things in your life, most likely. I have a friend that I was talking to the other day, and they've been through a lot. This friend's gone through a lot. I grew up with them, and through their life, like, I've watched them go through such insanely difficult things that I like, more than I've ever seen anybody go through. And most people would not make it through these things that this person's made it through. And I'm talking about things that you see in movies that are so extremely difficult that they destroy lives over and over again, over a 12-year period, probably. And they're still here. They're still finding a will to live. And I look at that and I go, I say this person because I was having a conversation the other day, and he goes, he says something along the lines like, I just don't know if life is worth living, that kind of thing. And I'm going, you finally are in a situation where you don't have to deal with these things, where you don't have to go through these things. The problem is that you thrived off the struggle for so long. You know what I'm saying? For so long, you had a goal and objective, and it was to survive. You know what I'm saying? I know another person that was in a severely abusive relationship. Again, you ever see the movie Taken? You know what I'm talking about? Like that happened. You know what I'm saying? But again, you wonder why after all that's done, and finally the future is bright, and you can see an opening, then the depression sets in. And obviously there's reasons why, there's PTSD, things like that. But another reason why definitely is that the objective for so long was just survival. You know what I'm saying? It was just survival. So now that that's gone, right? Now that that's gone, what is the objective? Where do you begin? You know what I'm saying? 10 years is a long time to miss out on her, however amount of time it was. So I bring this up because we've all gone through things in our life that have made us who we are, right? So for me, for example, one thing that's not really a severe thing compared to a bunch of other things is that going from whenever my father left, we moved to a different neighborhood because we didn't have the money to live where we were living. And I had to go to a different school, different people, completely different music, different culture, everything. And because of that, I had to adapt. I mean, everything had to change. How I dressed, how I acted, the way I spoke, everything changed. And I now I look back at that and I go, that was an opportunity. Being able to get out of that was an opportunity for me to learn who I really was, and it helped me do this job because I was able to effectively communicate my wants and needs and desires. And once that the fight was gone. So for example, for me, I got arrested at 17, right? Charges an adult with attempted murder and armed robbery. Pled guilty. The police shattered my left knee, broke my right knee in half. I was in jail for 19 months awaiting trial, and then I pled guilty to assault with a deadly weapon and larceny of a person and a couple other things. It was a blessing that I was given a suspended sentence and that I was not put in more trouble. The blessing was the biggest blessing though was that I think now when I approach everything, there's a genuine fear of failure there, right? So I think now, even still, every time I come into work, if I make a mistake or do something wrong, it might not be a healthy thought, but I go, oh man, this is gonna get me fired, right? Even if it's the smallest thing in the world. And if I do that, then I'm going to be right back to where even though it's 15 years ago now, I'm going to be right back to where I left off, and I'm going to be in this problem. And that healthy fear drives me to whenever I get to that bad place where I have a choice to make and I can choose to either do the right thing or wrong thing. It usually drives me towards the right thing. people will find, you could look at your accomplishments, and it's not just trophies that you get from sports and things like that. Accomplishments can mean a lot of different things. If you got kicked out of school and went and got your GD, or graduated from college, or anything that you can do, there's a lot more difficult things that you've done than this job. The biggest thing is, what do those things say to you? How do you use those things? How do you use those things to resolve where you're at right now? Memorize the script and rebuttals, understand. So here's the thing, is that it's the second thing that we put in the steps to success. It's the first thing we do in training effectively. Okay. It's the thing that we preach the most in training. I would say to Andrew for years, and I think he says it now, people would always ask me, do I have to learn this word for it? And I always say, that's the wrong question. The question should be, do I have to do this word for it? And effectively, the customer is not going to allow you to do that. You know what I'm saying? That being said, if it's the first thing you learn when you're in here, and then you get out there on the road, and you do see, when you're working with a manager, some differences between the script and what they're doing, you should see that anyways. Even though that exists there's obviously an importance to the foundation. So if you get away from that foundation, the further you get away from that foundation, if you're not constantly studying, you're not constantly getting back to the basics, then the further you get away, the less successful you're going to be. So for example, I could say verbatim any part of the script right now, and then I could also tell you exactly how I do it at the door, which is definitely different. You know what I'm saying? I always use the example of the value of the visit. The value of the visit, as written, says one of our foremen needs to see your windows to make sure that we can do what needs to be done here and find out what you want. And if we can't be a service to you, we'd be glad to recommend someone else who can. Assuming that we can help you, we'll show you the windows and how they're installed. And if you like what you see, we'll take some measurements and leave you with a free price quote. That way, when you already know exactly what can be done and what it'll cost, does that sound helpful? That's what it says on the paper, right? Okay. That being said, I say something slightly different, or drastically different, depending on what the customer says, when I'm out there on the road. So if I go out there and I say, hey, may I make a suggestion? The customer says to me, I'm just really not interested right now. I just don't think this is something that I'm going to do. I can't afford it. Something like that. I have to do my roof, whatever. Then I'm going to say, oh no, of course not, sir. All we would do is just simply have somebody come out to take a look at your windows, see how we can help you. I'll leave you with a free price quote. That way, when you're already, you'll know what can be done and how much it will cost. Does that sound helpful? Right. So a completely condensed version of that. Okay. Or for example, even if I'm out there and they said yes, I say, may I make a suggestion? And they say, yeah, sure, go for it. Okay, well, what I would do is have one of our phone come up to see if we can do what needs to be done here and find out what you like. Okay, so it's different than one of our phone needs to see your windows to make sure that we can do what needs to be done there and find out what you want. It's drastically different, right? You wouldn't notice it if I said it to you, but unless I pointed it out. But I know both things. I still know what's on the paper. I'm always going to know what's on the paper. So if I go out there and I fuck something up, then I can go, oh, I need to reevaluate what I'm doing here. There's something I said made that conversation end a lot quicker than I wanted it to. And then I can adjust based on that. Does that make sense? Okay. Stay focused and attentive while on the job, limiting distractions such as negative messages and phone calls. This is something that is dire. I'll go back to when there was a guy here named Julio that worked here. And he went from, it was 1 month, his first month, he wrote like 30 leads in the first 15 days of the month. So it was not even 15 canvassing days. He was averaging about 3 leads a day. Okay, a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, the second half that month, he wrote 3 leads total. And then he wrote 7 for the first half of the next month. And I'm going, Scott, we got to talk to this guy. We got to figure this out, right? So I sit down with him and I said, what happened on the 17th of June? I mean, that's like, because it was so clear that the 17th of June was his last good day. And then it was shit from there. And we were able to trace back that it had nothing to do with the job. There was something that personal that happened outside of work on the 17th of June that impacted very clearly the remainder of his life. Once we pointed that out, by the way, too, I mean, there was other issues that went on there that allowed him to not be able to work here long term. But once we pointed out, he was right back to 3 leads per day. We didn't solve it. I didn't go, okay, well, let me go take care of that for you. Simply pointed it out. Okay, well, you recognize that might be an issue. Okay, that doesn't have nothing to do with work. Stop torturing yourself with this. There's no reason to. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to help you to do poor at work because of it. And just a simple conversation, and it completely turned him around. So I challenge you then to understand stresses outside of work can definitely impact work, no matter what you. I always thought I was good at that, right? Until more recently. And then more recently, as I run into a couple issues outside of work, probably in the last 6 months, I see how they can impact. Like I went from like I never getting impacted by these things to not even wanting to come into the office some days because of, you know what I'm saying? And then not because of nothing here, just because of stuff outside of here. And I realized like, wow, I need to. So what I do then? So what I did was I looked at what might be causing that, and I just killed those things off. You know what I'm saying? It was like, okay, well, it's very simple. There's a certain set of things or people in my life that are negatively impacting potentially, even potentially, this that I built. Okay, I'm just gonna get rid of them. I don't really care what they are, to be honest with you. If it's my wife, then I'll just get rid of them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it might sound terrible, but if that's negative, if that's taking away my ability, it wasn't, by the way, too. If that's taking away my ability to take care of my children, then it's done. You know what I'm saying? Like it's over. That's it. You know, there's no, you know, if she texts me a bunch of negative shit right now, that's it. Don't text me at work. You can text me later on or whatever, right? And again, that's not the problem. I'm using that as an example. But if that was the case, then that would be it. I there's one thing that I'm not willing to compromise, and it's that. And so I would suggest that you take the same attitude based on what you feel is important. To me, it's not about, you know, oh, well, you're affecting my job. It's what you're affecting my ability to take care of my children. One of which is my adopted child that I'm taking care of, that's yours, right? And again, she would never do this. That's the thing, is we have an understanding of this. But as an example, and then my two children, one of them is a brand new baby. I'm not going to impact their livelihood because of something like this. And I see this impact people all the time, relationships and things like that. Of course, it's going to impact you. You know what I'm saying? It should not severely affect you to that level. You shouldn't let it to where it's going to impact your production because it's your ability to take care of your family, right? Let's say it's a death in the family, right? So I've had that before too. I'm sure that we've all had that before. That can be a very difficult thing because it's not controllable. You can't eliminate that from your life, right? I mean, effectively, you know, it's just not gonna, you can't solve that, okay? What you can do is you can seek to understand it, right? You can seek to understand it. So one year, me and Andrew, we went to Dallas, and right before we went to Dallas, I got a phone call from one of my best friends growing up, and he said, hey, Angel, who was my best friend, has been killed, right? He's pushed off a roof, okay? So I'm like, okay. So I got to handle this. And it was a very difficult thing. Him and I weren't getting along at the time, so it made, I think, it even more difficult. There's no way for me to solve that. There's nothing I can do about that. I did the best thing that I could to try to help take care of his 5-year-old daughter. There's nothing I can really do. What I needed to do was seek to understand, okay, is there anything I can impact in this situation? What can I do now to make sure that I keep those memories? You know what I'm saying? And what's going to make me most comfortable? And what it was we put on a benefit for his daughter. I made sure that I got as many photo albums made as I could, and then Andrew and I went to Dallas, and I took a couple days to focus not on that, and then I was able to come back to work and be fine. So it's you know, fine is a loaded word, but you know, everybody's different, but you have to try to control those things as best as you can. Success is built on preparation. Right. So I take today, for example, guys, if you today wore heavy pants and things like that, you're going to have a shitty time out there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in this job, people complain about the cold, or people complain about the heat. You can prepare for most things. You know what I'm saying? It's just a simple weather app, right? I mean, just checking the weather. If it's going to rain out, make sure you're prepared for it. You know, if you're sick, even take care of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Maybe take the day, take care of yourself, so the next day you can come back well and focused. Emotional intelligence in conversation is your primary tool. You have to remember that too. That's your primary tool. Understanding what the customer is saying to you. When dealing with customers and coworkers, cooperation, understanding is important. Use your product knowledge and your personal connections to work with the customers. So the script is extremely important. That's kind of automatic. You know, when you start to work here, when you get hired here, we don't hire you based on your ability to learn a script. You know what I'm saying? That's a question that doesn't even really come up. We might tell you about it, but it doesn't come up. We assume that you can memorize things to a basic level. This is the reason why you're hired. You know, it's because our belief in your ability to deal with the customers in an emotionally intelligent way. I was working with a guy one day, and we were talking to a woman. She had cancer, and so she was going through chemo, and so she had lost her hair. And this guy says to the lady, I'm not even fucking kidding with you. He says to the lady, I'm talking to her for a little while, and I'm sympathizing with her, and she lived not far from me. So I said, man, if you have any help with anything, groceries, anything like that, just let me know. And he goes, hey, at least you got a cool haircut. That's what he says to the lady. You know, and she's like, oh yeah, thanks. Like, I mean, she didn't know what to say. You know what I'm saying? And I leave the door. I'm like, what the fuck did you just say that for? Before I got a chance to say anything to him, he says to me, you really made her think about the cancer way too much. I'm like, are you fucking out of your mind, dude? You know what I'm saying? But it's that guy was naturally talented at dealing with people past that point. He couldn't do that. He did not, he could not think at all what anybody would think in any situation. This is a guy who used to let his kid torture his cat. I'm just kidding. He did that. I'm just making that part up. I do remember though when he let one of this guy was messed up. He let one of the other guys, this guy needed a place to live. This is so fucked up. So he had to move all his stuff to his house. He goes, I'll give you a place to stay. So he's gonna give him a room, right? And he has to move everything to his house. And then he hands him a $600 bill per month. Says, okay. After he moved all the stuff, he goes, all right, yeah, it's gonna be $600 a month. It's so fucked up to do to somebody, you know. But you know, he went for it. He's like, and he's the same guy. He goes, because the guy was like, no, I'm just gonna move my stuff out. I can't do this. So the guy had to get movers to move all his stuff back away from the place. And then he goes to the guy one day. I'm like, you got to stop believing it, man. You can't, like, you're being very like gullible. And he says to the guy one night, the guy's having a party at his house. He goes, the guy says, I'll pay for your Uber to get back. Like, no big deal. Don't worry about it. You know, you can't stay at my house, but I'll pay for your Uber to get back. I'm like, don't go, don't go. It's far away, you know? And so he goes over there, he gets over there. And the time comes to, you know, I wake up to a bunch of texts in the morning. He's like, can I get a ride? Can I get a ride? He said, he's an asshole. He said he would get me an Uber. He didn't get me an Uber. This poor bastard walked home. It took him like 7 hours to walk home. Yeah, you got to be a terrible person to do that. So, but that's, you know, don't believe the guy. I would never go to that guy's house. So yeah, anyways, emotional intelligence. Look for ways to grow by improving your production and taking on extra responsibility. It's amazing to me, guys, the amount of people that want to talk about growth when they're not doing well. It's a problem. My suggestion is recognize that your growth starts the second you start with the company. We start to have conversations seriously about people growing really after they start. I mean, if we go into a manager's meeting, let's say, for example, Thursday, we typically have a manager's meeting, and we see that somebody in training is an effective leader, is working hard at their script. We're not going to go, okay, let's make them team lead, right? But we're going to say, hey, that's a person that we want to keep our eye on, you know, for team lead, right? It starts right away. And so my suggestion is, because it starts the inverse right away too. If someone fucks off for the first 4 weeks of their job, and we're on the verge of letting the person go because they're not showing up on time, they're not doing the script, they don't have the numbers. We see that too. You know what I'm saying? But if somebody's not doing well, they're working really, really hard at it. That's the opposite, right? So, for example, I always use Chase's example because he sucked when he first started. He really did. It was really bad at the job. You know what I'm saying? But he worked. He was in every training. Every single time we had any training available, he was always asking for one-on-ones, fucking always asking for one-on-ones, and trying as hard as he could to get good at the job. Well, that's someone that we're going to say, hey, once he figures it out, you know what I'm saying? So we do see those things too. Communicate frequently with and properly with peers and with management. Communication is important. Express your needs and desires. Know your company and be proud of the product and service that you're offering. More importantly, guys, I think be proud of the job that you're doing in the department that you're in. You know, sure, we don't want to go out there and tell customers, hey, we're a salesperson. Hey, we're a marketer. That's because of a financial, you know, there's nothing that drives me because customers are going to react to that, obviously. I would tell you though, I see so many departments out there, and I mean, I work with a lot of these departments in you know different states for Renewable by Andersen, and they all call themselves something different. And if you go on LinkedIn or something like that, and you're to look up your coworkers, then they'll make up some weird name for the job because they want to avoid canvassing or door to door. I get calls in from customers sometimes, and they'll say, "Your company will succeed much better. Will do much better if you stop going door to door." You know what I'm saying? Like people say stuff like that. And I don't say it to them. Like occasionally I do. I'll be honest with you. We did $40 million in business last year, just this office. The next office down did 12.5 million. You know what I'm saying? This year, we'll do 55, 57 million. If we do things the right way, 57 million in business. The next office will do about 15 million in business. I mean, the severe growth this company has received has happened because of this department. You know what I'm saying? And so just recognize that your job, I mean, $57 million. You know how many people that employs? If our company has, by the end of the year, 350 employees, you're responsible for 40% of their salary. I mean, it's an important thing. It's an important job. I would never discount that, because once you do that, you are exactly what the customer says to you. When the customer says, oh, get a real job, or why are you doing this, this and that, you're going to be exactly what the customer says to you at that point, right? Those kind of customers. So you get the point, guys. You got to focus on what's going to make you more successful. Focus on your attitude. Those things are going to make an effective change. The number one thing, so when you look at script and system and stuff like that, do you know what the number one thing is that we see from the difference between successful people and people that struggle? It's their belief that they can do the job. If you sit down with, and this is 100%, I mean, we've tested this. If you sit down with 20 people that believe they can do the job that are doing well, okay, or that are doing well, rather, that are doing the job well, and you sit down with 20 people that are not doing well, okay, if you were to happen to get that, what you'll find is that all of the people that are doing well have strong belief in their ability to do the job, and they know exactly why they do well, okay? All the people that are not doing well, they're missing that belief that they can do the job. They might tell you, oh, no, I'm confident, I know I can do it. That's what they're missing. And it's kind of one of those seeing is believing things. If somebody goes out there and they have 4 or 5 good days in a row, then they're gonna know, okay, I can do this. This is something I can do. But it's getting to that point where you've done that. Okay. So getting more into script stuff, guys. And again, I'm trying to kind of push everything together here because we became a little bit more limited in time. Where do people lose out on leads? Okay. The place that people lose out on most is in objections. Okay. There's 2 ways that people lose out. It's in objections. Okay, so your responses to objections, rebuttals. And the second place is very popular for people to lose out on is in their window problems. Okay, it's not recognizing that the customer is saying yes to you, right? We see people. So there's a certain amount of what we call lay downs out there, right? So if you were to go out there house to house and say to customers, "Hey, I'm with Renewal by Andersen. Do you want a free quote from Andersen?" Someone is going to say yes. Someone is going to go, "Yeah, sure, fine, no problem," right? Now, there's other elements there, the 90 minutes, both homeowners being there, that might impact that. But generally, you're going to get someone that's going to go, I mean, it's free. Sure, fine. Okay. How you fuck that up, okay, when you go out there, and that's the thing that you want to solve, is that I guarantee you there's 1 per day at least for each person where that customer was ready to sign up. They're there, and it's yours to lose. Maybe you ask too many window problem questions. You don't allow the person to you don't use what the customer says. Yeah, sure, fine, I'll get a quote. Okay, let me ask you 17 more questions about your windows. Okay, I'm sick of it. I'm done. Right? You don't just move along. You give up on a basic objection. Something like, look, I got to talk to my husband about this. And you take it as, I can't schedule that appointment or whatever. The customer might just misunderstand what you're saying. You could say to them, what I would say to them in a situation like that is, great, I'm glad that you said that, Mrs. Jones. We actually would love to meet with both you and your husband. So you make my job a lot easier. We'll find a time that works good for the both of you. But before we do that, back to your script. Very basic, easy, simple, right? You don't even need to rebuttal it, right? Use what the person said to your advantage. I'm super glad that you said that. You just made my job so much easier. I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll have a conversation about that. We'll make sure we find a time that works good for both you and your husband. Right. And then just keep going. Just keep going. Right. That's why people lose, guys, is because they don't do what makes the most sense. They do something convoluted, or they don't do anything at all. So, and we've all been on the road in situations like this where I leave a house and I feel like, okay, there's probably several things I could have done to make that successful. Right. But let's look at the break points and where people have trouble. So the introduction. Good afternoon. My name is Paul Duffy. I hope you're Mr. Jones. Hi, Mr. Jones. I'm with Renewal by Andersen. We just completed some work for Mrs. Smith at 123 Main Street. The reason why I'm out here is it looks like you had the original vinyl windows. How long have you lived in the home? Now, I know that part says there, it doesn't say it looks like you have the original vinyl windows. It says, I noticed you might be replacing your windows soon. I may be able to help, right? Okay. Yeah. So that line, though, is very, very replaceable, right? In training, you learn that you're effectively not typically going to say, I noticed you might be replacing your windows soon and I may be able to help. That's going to be replaced by whatever you see. Okay. And you got to make sure you ask the question, how long have you lived in the home? All right. Those are the two things that are important there. The reason why the question, how long have you lived in the home, is important is there's two reasons. A, and it's very important. It's your ability to make a personal connection. When that person says, oh, I've been here for 15 years. Oh, cool. You must love the neighborhood. Right? Did you add this addition? And it looks beautiful. Okay. Did you get the garden? Did you do the gardening yourself? Did you get it done? Whatever. The landscaping here is amazing. So and so forth, whatever. Right. It's even better if they're bringing it to the home or if they've been there forever. Right. If they say, oh, we've been here since it was built. Oh, awesome. Looks like you made a ton of improvements on the house. It's great. So you've been here for 30 years. That's wild. You don't even look 30 years old, Mrs. Jones, to be honest. That's pretty crazy. Right. And it gives you the chance to make a personal connection. If they're brand new to the home, I mean, that's the easiest, right? Well, congratulations. It's great. Is it your first house? Well, this is an awesome place. You really found a good one. That's awesome. The neighborhood seems nice too. Have you talked to a lot of the neighbors? Right? I mean, it's an easy personal connection at that point. The second reason why is because you can gauge what their interaction has been with their windows. If they're brand new to the house, you have complete control. Don't ask them how old the windows are at that point. Tell them. Okay, well, I'll tell you from my experience. I don't know, did you get a home inspector to look at the house? They probably didn't go through the windows, did they? That's usually they don't. Well, I'm going to tell you that from my experience, these are definitely not original. They're probably 15 or so years old vinyl windows. And I'm going to show you why I know that. The first thing I noticed walking up was X, Y, or Z, right? You can take control of the conversation at that point, right? If they've been there for 50 years and they've replaced the windows 3 times, okay, and now they have 10-year-old vinyl windows, you can say, oh, okay, you've gotten these replaced. How long would you get them replaced? 10 years. Okay. How many times have you had to get these replaced? A lot of your neighbors just keep having to replace them. Oh, it's your second time. Okay, cool. Did you do it yourself? Or you can feel the customer and have a conversation with the customer. Maybe they've never replaced them. You know, I've been here for 50 years. Okay. You've done a lot of home improvements. Why have you never replaced the windows? You can even ask them that question. Oh, well, they're fine. Okay. Well, I want to point out something I noticed to you. And a lot of times, I mean, if you've been in a house for this long, you wouldn't even know this. But these are single pane vinyl, wooden windows. They're never going to be they effectively can't be energy efficient. There's nothing that you can do to make these energy efficient. It's just a piece of glass. Right. So having that conversation in that way is extremely effective. That question, how long have you lived in the home? It enables you to continue the conversation whichever way you want. You know what I'm saying? So it gives you an element of control that you didn't have before. That's something that we added just a couple of years ago to the script. When you go through the need commitment, the thing that you want to do is maintain control. That should be your number one mission, your number one goal. Your number one goal is not to get them to admit to window problems. Okay. They know that their windows are fucked up or they know they're not. They know that. Okay. Yes, you want to get some information out of them, but the number one mission is to control the conversation. That's the number one thing that's important. So if you're getting the shit kicked out of you in that conversation, because you're asking yes or no questions, or you're just asking questions in general. And every time you say, hey, how many windows do you have that are drafty or whatever, they keep saying, no, they're fine, they're fine, they're fine. You got to take control. You can't just let the customer have control. You have to say, okay, well, I'll tell you what I noticed walking up. I noticed X, Y, and Z. I'm going to make a suggestion. Okay. Makes sense. It's simple. It's these things that make a difference that are going to get you through the value of the business. So when I go to that house, and that customer, now I might say to that customer, you know, okay, well, I'll tell you, Mr. Jones, what I noticed walking up. Maybe you just haven't noticed it before. I noticed a heavy amount of oxidation. So the windows are starting to fall apart. It's like rust in plastic. Okay. I noticed a lot of mold growing in the windows. The biggest thing I noticed, same thing with your neighbor's windows, is that they're warped. That's why you see gaps in the bottoms of these 2 windows here. So they're definitely not going to be energy efficient. You might not notice it because you live in a home. That being said, may I make a suggestion? And the person might say, yeah, no, I'm not interested right now. Now, most people at that part, and I'm sure everybody has the same experience with this because I ask it every time. I'd say probably 95, 97% of people, if you say, may I make a suggestion? They don't say no. They say, yes, but I'm not interested. Yes, but I can't afford it. Yes, but I'm not doing anything with the windows, right? Something along the lines of that. Make sense? So it enables you a significant amount of control. That's why it's a great question. So when I say that to the customer, they're probably not going to say no. And by the way, if they did say no, then I would just go with the not interested rebuttal. Oh, of course, sir, I didn't expect to catch you on the day that you're ready to replace your windows. If I said, man, make a suggestion, they just said no. Because remember, you can impact what the rebuttal means too. When the words come out of that customer's mouth, that doesn't mean that it has to be not interested. Okay. It means that you can change that. You can adapt that. So when the customer says to me, look, I'm not interested right now, I have the ability to say something like, well, I'm glad that you brought that up to me, Mr. Jones. I'll tell you what I'll do then instead. We'll just have somebody come out just to take a look at the window, see if we can do what needs to be done here. Find out what you like, if it can't be a service to you. And what you're going to do is you're going to effectively adapt that objection. So when you get down to, does that sound helpful? That customer's not just going to say, I'm not interested right now. Okay. It's going to change. It's going to adapt. Okay. So when we go through, and I wish we had time to tell you that was my plan, but when we go through advanced rebuttal training, all right, which we will do this week now at this point, we have to, because we didn't get to it today. And now some of you guys are like, what the fuck are you talking about? It is on the YouTube page too. So we can have somebody send it out to the group me if we can, the advanced rebuttal training, but it's simple. You don't have to go through these convoluted rebuttals with the customer. You can simply agree with the customer. If the customer says to you, if you say, may I make a suggestion, or does that sound helpful? And the customer says, look, I can't afford new windows right now. You can say to the person, well, no, of course not. I mean, I just showed up at your door. I would never expect that, sir. But I'll tell you what, all we do when we come out is go over your options, answer your questions, and leave you with a quote that's good for a year. So you can contact us back whenever you're ready. Okay. I have your last name, Harris Jones. What's your first? Okay. It's easy to do that. It makes the job so much easier. Okay. May I make a suggestion? No, look, I got to do my roof right now, man. I can't do my windows. Oh, no doubt, sir. I mean, the roof is way more important than the windows. As a matter of fact, I should have noticed walking up that the roof needed to be done. I actually used to work for a roofing company, whatever. So I should have noticed that, That being said, I'm guessing that you've been planning for that for a while. Okay, yeah. I mean, every project like that should be planned for, Mr. Jones. I'll tell you what I'll do instead is just have somebody come out just to take a look at the window, see if we can even do what needs to be done here. Find out what you like. If we can't be a service, that's fine. We'll just recommend someone else who can. But if we can help you, then we'll leave you with a free price quote so you can call us back whenever you're ready. That being said, I'm sure that sounds helpful to you. I mean, it would, just not right now. I mean, I'm going to do the roof, it's going to be a couple of years until we do the windows. Oh, no, that's why it's perfect timing to do this. Because we just go over your options, answer your questions. The quote's locked in for a year, but the biggest thing is it tells you whether or not you want to do business with our company. So I have your last name here as Jones. What's your first? Right? It's easy stuff. You may go, well, why don't we just put that stuff in the rebuttals? Because it relies too much on how you say it. You know what I'm saying? It relies too much on that. The rebuttals are meant to be words on a paper that you memorize. Make sense? Hey, Joel. Okay, well, it's fine. We're about to wrap it up anyway, so you guys are good to go. All right, thank you. Is everybody else getting audio? North is not getting audio. Okay. By the way, Blake, too, what we're gonna have to do is because I gotta do the dunk tank. I've been called on to do the dunk tank. We will do your Zoom call right after that. Okay.
Okay.
Do you have access to callbacks?
Yes.
Can you do those until we get it done?
Yeah, I can do that.
Excellent. Perfect. All right, for everybody else, look, here's the deal. I'm gonna wrap this up and whatnot, and then there's a food truck downstairs for you guys up here. For you guys in North and West, we're gonna do pizza this week. Because there is not that there. You guys can, before you go on the road, grab something to go. Okay. Just make sure we got to get out there in an effective time as well. We're doing so well keeping up with goal. We don't want to let that go. So please make sure that we're doing that. But here's the deal, guys, is that we can get double our production in half the amount of time. It might not seem possible. You might look at yourself. And I'm not saying that for everybody. I mean, if you went out there yesterday, you got 3, 5 leads, 6 leads, 10 leads, whatever, you might not double your production. But for those of you that got 1 or 2 or 3, you can double your production, and you can double it easily and effectively double the department production as well. We're relying on you to, as a matter of fact. But you have to simplify what you do. This is not a difficult job. Setting leads is not difficult. Okay. You have to streamline it for the customer. Make sure that your goal is to get through the value of the visit. Okay. Getting through the value of the visit, you guys can go over this in the vans if you don't mind. The biggest core thing that you can focus on is staying in control of the conversation so the customers don't dictate how far you get in the script. So I would never lose to a customer in the introduction or the window problems because they don't have the ability to do that. The only way is to shut the door in my face. That's it. There's no other way to. And it's not because I talk over them or yell over them. Not at all. You know what I'm saying? Not at all. It's just because I don't allow myself to be impacted by the things that they say. So they can effectively say anything to me, and it doesn't really matter because my mission is to get through the value of the business. At the value visit, that changes a little bit because now I'm asking them for things, right? So it's going to adapt a little bit. Right? I'm asking them to do something. There's a call to action, right? So they can say no to that call to action. I'll just give you an example before we close out. So if I knock on the door, good afternoon, my name is Paul Duffy, Mr. Jones. Great, Mr. Jones. I'm with Renewal by Anderson. We just did some work for Mrs. Smith right down the street on 123 Main Street. And if the customer says right there, like, not interested, not doing this, nope, not doing windows right now. Oh yeah, of course not, sir. Like I said, we just finished up a job for your neighbor. The reason why I'm out here is because it looked like you had the original vinyl windows. But how long have you lived in the home? I've been here for 5 years, but there's no way I'm doing the windows right now. We have way too much going on. Oh, and I would never ask you that, sir. I just want to point out a couple of things I did notice walking up here. You say you've been here for 5 years. Okay. Walking up, I did notice that there was some condensation and fog in the front window right here. How long have you seen that for? How long has that been there? I don't know. I've never noticed it before. The windows seem fine to me. Okay. And obviously that customer, they're in your head, I would imagine right now. I can even feel when I'm pitching myself, there's a little bit of pressure on you. You're like, Jesus, this guy, you know what I'm saying? So you're gonna keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna bring up problems. Oh no, well that's good, sir, that you haven't noticed any effective problems. Most of your neighbors have gotten their windows replaced because of the drafts in the home. Some of them have extreme drafts, some just a little bit of hot and cold spots. Would you say that's more effective? Does that affect you more in the front of the home or the back of the home? Nope, I haven't seen it. They've been energy efficient. They're absolutely fine. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, so I'm going to point out a couple things that I noticed before I get out of here. The first thing I noticed walking up is that the windows have warped. Okay. That's probably the reason why the fog is happening in the windows. And you can see that in the front 3 windows right here. It looks like there's a gap at the bottom of the windows. I also noticed too that these were installed. They have weep holes in them, which is the drainage system for vinyl windows. Water gets caught inside of there and ends up, the windows end up growing mold on the inside and out. That's why you see the black spots kind of around the edge of your windows here. And like I said, a lot of the neighbors have complained about opening and closing their windows and the drafts in the windows. We know these windows are definitely no longer energy efficient, whether or not you feel that. That being said, may I make a suggestion? I mean, you can, but I'm not doing anything with the windows right now. Okay. And here's where you start to not lose control, but this is where you have to be smart about what you do. No, and like I said, sir, of course, I'm glad that you are so adamant about that. I really am. Because what I do instead is just have somebody come out just to take a look at the windows, to test the energy efficiency here, see what kind of problems you might be having. Look, if we can't be a service to you, fine, that's, we'll just recommend someone else who can. But if we can help you, then we'll show you the windows and leave you with a free price quote. That way down the line, whenever you are ready, you can give us a call back. That being said, I'm sure that sounds helpful. No, not now, man. I'm not, like I said, I'm not doing anything with the windows. There's no way I'm going to touch them. We have a lot of other projects going on. This house is falling apart. I got to do this over. I got to do that over. It sounds like a lot, sir. It sounds like a lot, sir. And I can agree with you. There's probably more important things than the windows right now. And that's exactly why we do this service. When we come out, all we do is go over your options, answer any questions that you have. Then we leave you with a quote that's good for a year. But more importantly, you have the information so you know whether or not you ever want to call us back. That being said, I have your last name here as Jones. What's your first? Okay. So again, this is a tough customer. This is a customer that's now objected to me 5 times, right? And their objections are not easy objections. It's not exactly, oh, well, I'm getting a pool replaced and then I might do the windows. Oh, I might do this in a couple months. It's like, no. It doesn't, you can still move forward, guys. And the biggest thing is you got to kind of act innocent in a way, like, oh no, of course, this is why I'm here. Like, I'm here for you, because a person can't get pissed off. You're not going to irritate the person. Even if you sit there, you could object, you could rebuttal the person effectively all day. And if you just don't sound like you're being ignorant, if you sound like you're listening to them, then they're not going to have a problem. They're not going to have an issue, right? So when that person says to you, look, I got all this stuff going on, I can't afford it. When you say something to them like, look, I'm glad that you told me. That actually means a lot to me. I really wouldn't want to put you in a bad position, right? Then you can say whatever you want. You just got to put that on there first. It's just like repeating yourself, right? A lot of people get afraid of repeating themselves in their script. Don't be afraid of that. It's fine to repeat yourself as long as you acknowledge that you're going to repeat yourself. You could repeat yourself every other line if you wanted to, as long as you kept saying, oh, like I said, as I previously stated, sir, go ahead, Anthony. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. And the person probably didn't get pissed off because you're acknowledging that you're going to see, like I said, you could even say to the person, look, I hate to keep driving this point, these windows, this problem, I mean, it just, as long as you acknowledge that you're going to repeat yourself, they're fine. They're not going to have a problem. Okay. So we definitely have more work to do on this section. I wish that we had more time. It's almost 1 o'clock now. I still got some stuff to finish up, and then I got to get that dunk tank. We got to get some leads in there too. Tomorrow we have cancellation rate and demo rate training. That stuff we should not have any interruptions for. Be in the office for it. In Central, we're gonna do it from West. I'll be in West, so I'll do it from West. But be in the office no matter where you're at for that training. If you have a cancellation rate above like 45%, then you should be there for that, or a demo rate below 90%. This training that we're doing right now, specifically the advanced rebuttal training, I'm gonna come. Hopefully, we can do it again on Friday for people that kind of missed out, or for people that haven't gone through it before. If not, then early next week, the latest. I want to get these things solved. You know, I want to help you guys as much as possible because we're entering a new month. It's the 3rd of the month, but you know what? If months fly by, I mean, it's fucking October already. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, we're closing out the year in 2 months. 3 months. So let's just be as effective as we possibly can, guys. My goal for you today is nobody get less than 3 leads. There's no reason not to get 3 leads. If you don't get 3 leads, then yeah, it's you just have to ask yourself, what can I do differently? Because there's definitely 3 leads in every neighborhood, guaranteed, minimum. There's 5 in every neighborhood, by the way, too. Guarantee you there's 5 leads in every neighborhood or more, minimum. Doesn't mean you'll get them every day, but there's 5 in every neighborhood. Okay. Go look at the maps. I mean, well, you can't see what we can see, but I can tell you that there's 5 leads in every single neighborhood, minimum. Okay. Every time you go out. Right. Until we hit 20% market saturation, there's 5 leads in every neighborhood. And I can tell you right now that there's probably 2 neighborhoods in the entire territory where we're at 20% of business. 2 neighborhoods. Most were at between 2 and 5%. Okay. Plenty of business out there. And every year we gain more and more. There's houses that we couldn't do last year because they were too new. Every year. I think about if I went back to Massachusetts right now, the stuff that 15 years ago I started with, the stuff that was being built is all doable now. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. I'd love to go on like a reunion tour and go back there for like a day and just hit all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? That'd be crazy. Help the corporate office out a little bit. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll be up in West tomorrow. I'll be in North either the end of the week or early next week. I'll let you guys know. Blake, I'll text you as soon as